that's another great segue. And I want to ask you about Israel because, again, one of the things that people have said is, I don't have time to worry about Israel, Palestine. I'm worried about what's going on in Africa. I'm worried about what's going on around the diaspora as a Pan-Africanist. Our dear brother, Dr. Umar Johnson, was one of those people who made a video.
Ain't nobody said nothing about the Ethiopians. Ain't nobody said nothing about the Congolese. But you want me to cry tears for the Arabs? I hope the Arabs in the West Bank in Gaza, I hope they are protected. I hope nobody dies. I hope those babies' lives are safe. I hope the women are cared for. I hope that there's no bloodshed. If you think I'm going to stop my agenda to liberate my people to go cry for people who don't cry for me, y'all don't pay attention to what's going on in Ethiopia. The greatest humanitarian crisis in the world is in the Congo, not the West Bank, not the Gaza Strip. So don't tell me I got to cry for whites and browns. I'm crying for black people, and I don't care who don't like it.
Some people, like Susan Abul Hawa, who is a prominent Palestinian activist, pointed out the relationship between Congo and Israel, to say that is to say that they're not separate issues, and that we have to kind of think about the overlap and how we're all linked, not just as oppressed people, but by particular systems, particular states, particular forces. Could you talk a little bit about the role of Israel in the Congo?
Yeah, well, Israel had been a long time ally of Mobutu, the dictator, in terms of training its soldiers. It's been, deeply engaged in the Congo in terms of getting access to its riches, particularly the diamonds. The Congolese, it's a religious society. When the current Congolese president, Felix Tshisekedi, first came to the United States as president, I think it was 2019, 2020, maybe in 2019, he spoke at AIPAC. Right, American Israeli Public Affairs Committee, and that's where he went to speak. So there is a strong tie right now as we speak, because of what's happening in Gaza. The Israeli soldiers that were training Congolese soldiers in their battle against the M23 had to be called back to Israel because they needed them in Israel so that they could fight in Gaza. So there are, at this very moment, they were training Congolese military. So that's on the military front, but on the economic front, they're deep ties.
Well, let me ask a couple clarifying questions about military, just so that I understand from my own knowledge. Is it accurate to say that Israel has trained Ugandan and Rwandan militia groups? Is that a fair assessment?
I don't know if you say trained. I don't know. I haven't seen to train Rwandan and Ugandan militia groups. I haven't seen the evidence of that.
Okay.
I just haven't seen it. They may have. I don't
know enough. I'll be honest with you.
I know they train their soldiers, right? But I don't know if they train the militia groups.
Oh, right? Okay. No, but this is helpful. These distinctions are important. Again, I don't know enough. That's why I brought an expert on. Yeah. So you would say it is. You've seen no evidence that they're training militia groups, but they are training Ugandan and Rwandan soldiers.
Rwandan, Ugandan, Congolese, and that's one of the services they provide in training their soldiers.
And the other thing that I've been told, I'm reading a note that someone sent to me. They said Israel was also the only country supplying weapons to the Hutus when the whole world knew they were massacring Tutsis. I
haven't seen that.
No problem at all.
I haven't seen that.
Okay.
I haven't seen that. No.
That's important. Again, I don't ever want to overstate what's happening.
No, and we don't need to overstate it. Israeli engagement in Africa has been devastating. You just have to look at the history of apartheid South Africa and how Israel worked with South Africa to help them develop nuclear weapons, worked with South African military. So whether it's in South Africa, different parts of the continent, and equally important, the business people. One of the richest individuals in the Congo is an Israeli by the name of Dan Gertler. He took over, let's say, from Maurice Templesman. Some of you may remember Maurice Templesman, the Democratic supporter, the consort of Jacqueline Kennedy Onassis. He worked closely with Mobutu to get access to the diamonds that were then, shifted out of the Congo and sold in New York and Israel and elsewhere. So Dan Gertler, an Israeli, conservative Israeli, Orthodox Jew, who struck up a relationship with Congo's president, Joseph Kabila. First, he had access to diamonds, and then he got access to minerals, copper, and then oil. He became a billionaire off the Congo. He worked with a partner by the name of Benny Steinmetz, who incidentally was just charged and I think even convicted for illicit activities in Guinea. But the two of them established a company where they got control of concessions in the Congo, and they took that company to the London alternative investment market in order to issue a public tender. And the company was valued at billions of dollars just from that one company saying that they have concessions in the Congo, which was at the time was even greater than Congo's annual budget. But he's become a billionaire off of the Congo. He's currently on the U.S. sanctions list because of illicit operations, corrupt operations. He was identified as being part of an effort with a Wall Street firm called Zif. I think they've changed their name now. That was fined by the Justice Department hundreds of millions of dollars for corrupting Congolese officials. Which is really critical, because when you talk about corruption, you usually look at the African leaders, but here it is that you have a hedge fund on Wall Street who basically had a slush fund that they gave to Dan Gertler in order for him to corrupt Congolese officials to get sweetheart deals, mining concessions. And Gertler worked it so well, Mark, that today we have a situation, even though he's on the U.S. sanctions list, because of his relationship with a major mining company called Glencore. Glencore is a mining company in the Congo that was actually formed by Mark Rich. Some of you may remember Mark Rich. He's the one that got a pardon from Bill Clinton going out the door of his presidency. Glencore is in partnership with Dan Gertler. And Gertler currently gets, according to an article by Vanity Fair, $200,000 a day in royalties from Glencore, even though he's under sanctions. Now, to put that in perspective for people, according to the World Bank, 7 out of 10 Congolese, 70 million of the 100 million Congolese live on less than $2.15 a day, right? So one man, Dan Gertler, Israeli,
I need again
$200,000 a day.
I need to slow that down because again,
70 million people,
and not just to the gross disparity, but also to the conditions that kind of Congolese people are living under. Say that again. Say that again.
According to the World Bank, 70% of Congolese live on less than $2.15 a day. You know, we're talking about a country where the gross domestic product is about $50 billion or so. The per capita income is about $500 a year. It's a country that's really being plundered. And that's you know, for those who have been following us all along, that's the fundamental theme of the Congo. Like, the Congo was designed by Europeans for plunder, for the extraction of minerals. And that design has not fundamentally changed to this very day, where you see the resources going out of the Congo while the Congolese people live in abject poverty. And a Congolese scholar, Dr. Georges Nzangola Ntalaja, wrote an excellent book called Congo from Leopold to Kabila, where it's a people's history of the Congo. It's like the Howard Zinn corollary of the Congo, right? Where he documents the resistance on the part of the Congolese, the pursuit of Congolese in order to control and determine their own affairs. And that's really the central struggle of the Congolese. For those who are just coming into the Free Congo movement, learning about the Congo, at the heart of the matter, when you're talking about liberation, when you're talking about finally achieving that sovereignty, it's that struggle on the part of Congolese. And that's what Friends of the Congo does. We support the Congolese in that struggle for control,
self-determination
of their own affairs, right?